Just like me, after 3 years in dormancy, blue boosting hives using Pop Gummy have come back from the dead. And now we have a blue boosting hive that is actually viable and can somewhat keep up with red and white. Just like my white hive guide, which you should watch if you want to be a white hive, I'm going to go over the main hive that's currently used for Pop Gummy. It's beequips, mutations, amulet stats, and for this video, the alts that are necessary. For bees, there's 3 categories: support bees, event bees, and mythics. And of course, every bee in this hive should be gifted. The hive runs hasty, stubborn, honey, bucko, carp, ninja, lion, looker, shocked, music, cool, bubble, diamond, and of course, basic bee. These are your main support bees. They either provide a hive bonus, a powerful ability, or they hold a powerful bee equip. Now that that's over with, before I get into the event bees and mythics, if you saw my short video over this hive, you'll know it's a very strange hive comp with every color implemented in it. While this hive has gotten many good boosts and has the most promise that a blue boosting hive has had in years, it doesn't actually quite measure up to the top red and white boosting hives yet. But maybe with Cocoa combo looping and some more testing and innovation, it can be up there. Or if it ever releases more hive slots, which isn't fucking happening because this game never gets updated. Now onto the event bees. Puppy Bee is here to buff Gummy Star as a unique colorless type, and its buffed Puppy Love ability boosts move speed, which also essentially boosts ability rate. Tabby Bee is used in every single hive because of its insane stats, as well as buffed Tabby Love giving more super crit and critical chance. Photon Bee and Cobalt Bee offer instant conversion, which is essential to any boosting hive, as well as Cobalt Bee's Blue Pulse having some pretty good bag conversion, helping out Diamond Mask and needing to use less microconverters. Gummy Bee gives a decent hive bonus and activates Gummy Morph more often. Bee Bear is here for Bear Morph, giving ×2 pollen as well as a 10% pollen hive bonus. It's the second best bee in the game, falling only short of Digital Bee, which is the only reason these 4 quadrillion plus boosts are possible. The only caveat is that you need to spend a while grinding drives. And Windy Bee is also here. Mythic Bees. This hive uses every mythic besides Fuzzy Bee, as we have alts for that. Tadpole bees are your main pollen producers. You need to run a minimum of 8, as they also provide the boost tokens for Popstar. Precise bees are here to keep up your super crit chance. You need to always upkeep ×10 precision and have 2 to 3 precise marks next to each other at all times for a good boost. If you have really good mutations and are experienced in boosting, so it's easy for you to upkeep the marks and precision, you could drop one of these in favor of another tadpole, but that will probably make your boosts a lot more volatile, as you could lose that precision and not be able to get it back up as quickly. Vectors are here to keep the precise marks up for as long as possible, as well as making marks to cover the field. Triangulate is also extremely helpful for Gummy Star growth, as they collect a lot of goo. You need at least 10 vectors. Buoyant Bee is here for its incredible ×1.2 capacity hive bonus, as well as it being able to hold the kazoo if you opt to replace the shocked bee for another tad or vector. Before we get into bee equips, please leave a like and or subscribe if you're enjoying. Before we get into bee equips, please leave a like and or subscribe. It really helps the channel out and helps more people find this guide and my other guides as well. And motivates me to make more, of course, because I'll be making either a general blue guide or a really in-depth red guide next. Now, bee equips. These are one of the most important parts of a good hive. They can completely change how your hive operates, granting extra tokens and hive bonuses. And there are a few you basically can't get a good boost without. Camphor Lip Balm is the most important bee equip in this hive. The gold bubble pollen stat is basically as strong as bee ability pollen for blue hives, except unfortunately it doesn't affect smiley tokens. And while getting these, if you manage to get one with good pepper patch pollen, you can trade it to a red player for a shit ton of signs. Toy Drum goes on Bucko Bee. It's a source of haste, and it should buff bee ability pollen. If you have an extra bee equip slot, you can also run a one on Brave Bee as well to upkeep haste better. Cool Bee holds the whistle. It's another source of haste, and it also can give some extra super crit power. Melody on Whistle kind of sits in between the middle of white and red hives, as it is helpful, but it's not necessary like it is on a red hive, but it's not as useless as it is on a white hive. Buoyant or Shocked Bee can hold the kazoo, which can give super crit power, critical power, or both, and it's also an easy source of melody. Pink Shades go on the basic bee for super crit power, and if you get a good one, super crit chance as well. But the power is much more important than the chance, as its max is 1% chance. Photon Bee should be carrying the Paper Angel, as it gives an extra source of token link, the ability pollen, and ability token lifespan. Ability token lifespan seems pretty useless to a lot of people at first, but once you get good at boosting, it can delay your smiley token lineups, which are very helpful for higher peaks in your boost with Gummy Star and Pop Star. You need 2 smiley stickers, just like every other hive that uses marks. You must have honey mark on them, or they're basically useless. Mark duration is also pretty helpful, but not necessary. You can put these on Carpenter and Stubborn Bee. Some people think that you can also put them on Precise Bee, but that is a horrible decision, as precision is much more important to keep up than 1 extra mark on the field. Sweatband goes on Digital Bee. It heavily buffs the Digital Bee's gather amount, which in turn buffs its smileys. A Blue Pollen hive bonus for it also obviously can never hurt, but it's not your priority. You run 2 toy horns on both Lion and Cobalt. These are for Melody and, of course, Bee ability pollen. You run 2 paper clips on Looker and Hasty Bee, which gives ability token lifespan, Bee ability pollen, and token link. Not having token link on one of these isn't a deal breaker if you get one with good ability token lifespan and Bee ability pollen, but it's definitely helpful. And if you have some extra Bee equip slots, or you can't get or afford the optimal Bee equips, there are a few other options you can run. You can put Peppermint Antlers on Bee Bear for more bear morphs, but it's not worth it with bad stats. 1% ability rate won't really do anything. Bead Lizard can be run if you somehow manage to get one with good Bee ability pollen, but those are much rarer than any other Bee equip that gives Bee ability pollen. Candy Ring can very rarely be ran, just like in white hives, if you get one with good honey from tokens and over 3 honey per goo. But that's very rare and expensive, so it's not worth it in most cases. Poinsettia can be ran if it has very high bee gather pollen. As a last resort, you can run a Bee's Mist Top if it has 8 or more critical power. Only run the Bee's Mist Top if you don't have anything else to put as your last bee equip slot. Now on to mutations. For mutations, basically every bee needs move speed. You should focus on getting your tadpoles good move speed mutations first, since they need to give as many bubbles as possible. The only bees not getting move speed are Bear and Tabby, which use bee ability rate, and Digital Bee, which gets gather amount. You want at least 5 move speed mutations on every bee that you can get them on, but remember, focus on the tabs first. They are your biggest source of pollen. Now on to the amulets. This is going to be another speed round because there's just a lot of numbers to get through. And I'll put all of this in the description as well, but try to stick around because I'll cover what actually matters versus just what's just nice to have. Only perfect amulets go in the description. For your Supreme Star amulet, you want Blue Pollen, Bee Gather Pollen, Critical Chance, and Bee Ability Rate or Instant Conversion. Boosting in Honey Day, Instant Conversion seems to be better, but it depends on how much your bag fills for you. And of course, you need Pop Star and Gummy Star. Ant Amulet wants Critical Power, Blue Pollen, and Critical Chance. Ant Amulet wants Critical Power, Blue Pollen, and Critical Chance. Player Movespeed is a little bit useful, but not necessary, along with Red Pollen. Stickbug Amulet needs Blue Pollen and honey from tokens. Plus 2% red bee attack is also helpful, and so is plus 1 bee attack or plus 10% monster respawn time, which helps getting Snail Amulet and for bugruns, but these aren't important for boosting. For Moon Amulet, you want either Bee Gather Pollen or Instant Conversion. Just like for the Supreme Star Amulet, it depends on how much your bag personally fills. Bond from Treats is also helpful, but obviously isn't going to give you any more pollen. King Beetle Amulet isn't really all that helpful for boosting, but Bamboo and Blue Flower Field Pollen is helpful for Robo Bear Challenge, but all your boosts should be done in stock. Shell Amulet needs Goo, which is guaranteed, Goo Conversion, and Honey from tokens. Stump Field Pollen is also guaranteed, but can go up to 65%, which obviously you want that as maxed out as possible. And also you can get Dandelion Field Pollen, but that's really not going to help you anywhere. For Cog Amulet, you need Blue Pollen, Bubble Pollen, Honey from tokens, and Instant Blue Conversion. It can also get up to 15% bee attack or plus 2 red bee attack, but the bee attack is generally better than the red bee attack for this hive. Now on to how to swap to this hive. You do unfortunately need a lot of resources to swap to any late game boosting hive. For this one, you need Gummy Baller, Cocoa Belt, maxed blue and white drives, and red does help as well since Stump has some red flowers, and this obviously makes RBC easier as well. And you want at least 300 glitched, just like in the White Hive video. If you're going for just a good Supreme Star Amulet with an unmutated hive, you need a minimum of 2 quadrillion to swap. If you want good mutations via Royal Jelly, you need over 20 quadrillion. You also need, of course, the good amulets, which we went over, a fully gifted hive, and at least 3 alt accounts. And unfortunately, most people starting out boosting, the first boosts aren't going to be good. While a lot of people might say otherwise, boosting in general actually requires some skill and expertise. If you gave someone who'd never played before a fully built, fully optimized Pop Gummy account, they probably wouldn't even break 50 trillion. There are 3 things that you need to master to boost well as a Pop Gummy hive. First, precise bee management. First, precision management. This is the most important part of any boosting hive. You have to always keep at least 10 times 10 precision up and at least 2 precise marks next to each other at all times. And knowing when to just get the boost tokens to speed up a pop star is helpful as well. This is the main skill that separates a 50 trillion boost from one getting over a quadrillion. Second is Gummy Baller lineups. And me personally, I've never actually used the Gummy Baller. I don't even own it in my account because I've always been a red hive. But you need good management of this item. Knowing when to throw it, where to throw it, keeping track of its progress, and lining it up with Gummy Bear Morph all help with boosting. And high Gummy Baller combos massively increase your goo conversion, which means less problems with your bag overfilling. This matters in every single boost. And third, corruption management, which obviously just for smileys. You want to time your digital smiley tokens with your Gummy Star and Pop Star together for the best results. Duped frogs get you a lot of extra pollen, especially if you have good corruption on the field. And occasionally duped triangulates can also get up there in the numbers. On a side note, one of the main reasons that this hive actually works as a boosting comp is because Stump Field gives insane blooms. It's one of the only fields that consistently puts out periwinkle blooms. And if you remember periwinkle jelly beans back in the day, just imagine that. But blue blooms give you up to ×2 pollen. Cyan blooms give up to 3 times bubble pollen. And if you manage to get a cyan and periwinkle blooms going at the same time, that's a 2.5 to 4.5 times increase in pollen from bubbles alone. Stacking that on top of every other multiplier you have activated, that can give you some insane numbers. Violet blooms give super crit chance, and they work kind of weird starting at 5% with just one, but only climbing up to 10%. But just that 5% super crit chance is very helpful. And that will lower your bag fill as well because all super crits instantly convert. And lastly, gray blooms give extra mark pollen, which is useful for triangulates either duped or not. Now on to alt accounts. Just like for every other boosting hive, alt accounts are not optional. You need at least 3 alt accounts. You can run these as just 3 gumdroppers, which are also tad fuzzy alts. And of course, having guiding star on all of these would be helpful. And if you want, you could run just 2 as fuzzy alts, because that will maintain really good pollination and have the third just be a guiding spam. You want all of these alts to also be running Gummy Mask, as Gummy Morph covers the entire field in goo, which is of course very helpful for Gummy Star, even though you don't get the Gummy Bear Morphs yourself every time. Ideally, you also want 2 extra alts to use as gumdroppers so that the entire field is always covered in goo. Lastly, every single boost should always be done in stump. Even if you don't get wins, there is unfortunately no point in boosting in pine tree, bamboo, or blue flower, as one, they're all just too big of fields. The blooms are much worse, and you don't get that 65% extra pollen from the shell amulet. Unfortunately, you do have the downside of always having to kill snail on every single account, but compared to having to use a shit ton of stingers every boost as a white or red boosting hive, I don't think it's that bad of a downside. And that's everything you need to run Pop Gummy at a high level. As y'all noticed in the White Hive video, I'm not actually good enough at this game to make the full guide. And really all I'm doing is just putting it into a format that is a lot easier to access for many players. Shout out to Erit_1, who tested the Hive, and Riot003, who actually made the guide that I'm essentially just reading off of. I will leave this guide linked in the description. And if this helped at all, please leave a like and subscribe. It really does help out the channel and help some more players find this guide as well. If you have any questions, leave it in the comments below. I'll try to answer as many of them as I can. And let me know what kind of guide you want to see next, or any other topic you want to see a video on. Leave it in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.